Hey guys, it's Tara Shaver, the face of the virus, COVID-19. Just tuning in to give you guys, the Facebook 5000, a little update about how we're doing here in Nashville. Thanks to Mitchell for reaching out just to send over some questions that you guys have been sending his way. And a special shout out to Mitchell's mom, who I hear has asked about me every day. Thank you very much. I'm so glad to know that people other than my mom care about how I'm doing. So I'm just going to take a few minutes to go over some of the questions that you guys have had and tell you what's been happening since Mitchell and I had our Facebook chat. One of the first questions that folks have had for us is, how are we feeling? How are Rick and I doing? So Rick is doing great. He's actually out right now driving for Uber Eats and for DoorDash and a couple of the other delivery companies because he's been going stir crazy here. He works in hospitality and his hotel shut down as of today. So he's not expected to go back to his regular job until I believe sometime in May. And so he had a turning point. I think it was like the day after I chatted with you guys. He woke up like an entirely different person. And the experience was not quite the same for me. So after, being sick as I was for like one day where I was just out of commission, and then going through the next week of trying to help take care of him and just dealing with all of the effects and the domino effect, I guess, after we received the diagnosis that we had COVID-19, I was pretty wiped out. So I actually took the next week off of work, and I was just sleeping a lot. I was sleeping 12 or 14 hours a night, and I was still taking a nap during the daytime. And I just described it as like I had brain fog. So I had really good intentions of going and doing some things around the house, and I just could not get the mental capacity together to be able to do that. So that was really interesting and something that I really have not experienced before, something that I can't remember experiencing before. Okay, so how are we? Are we back to normal? A little bit slower. Yeah, so I was slow until literally Monday of this week. I went back to work on Monday. I had a pretty normal day at work, and at the end of the day, like 5:30, I was like headed straight to bed. So I took a pretty long nap that night. I think I got up and had like a Gatorade or something, and then went back to sleep and slept until like 8:30 the next day. Tuesday was a little bit better, and then by yesterday, yesterday was Wednesday. So by yesterday, I had a pretty full day at work and felt pretty normal. And in the evening, I actually did lay down to take a nap, but I ended up being up from like 1 to 4:30 or 5 this morning. So intentionally, I am trying to make sure that I stay up the next couple of days and don't give in to the nap and just maybe head to bed a little bit early. We did not have to test negative before we were released from quarantine. So I can't remember if when I talked to you guys, if we were going to have to test negative twice in a row was actually what they were proposing at that time or not. But for us, actually the rules have changed along the way of our being in quarantine for 14 days. And by the time I was released from quarantine, the rules said that you needed to have been on quarantine for 7 days, and that the previous 72 hours, you did not have a fever or any, basically I think it was just a fever. So for 72 hours before that, at the end of 7 days, you could be released, which was very different from at the very beginning when they told us 14 days and 2 negative tests 24 hours apart. So, things are changing all the time, even now, after we're a couple of weeks out. So the next question, now that you're past the 14 days, can you leave the house? We can, but there's nowhere to go. So Nashville and really a lot of Tennessee are on lockdown. And so other than walking around the neighborhood or making a couple trips out for supplies, there's really nowhere for us to go. So I've kind of just stayed close to home because I've been busy and tired. So I haven't really gone anywhere anyway. And Rick has gone out to run a couple of errands. We had to go to the pharmacy and some things like that. And so he has taken care of those things. And like I said, he is back to doing some driving just because he was really getting stir crazy here. are we back to our jobs? So I work from home full time. I'm a teleworker, and usually I travel actually quite a bit. So it's been very different to be home for this length of time and to not have any travel planned. And also just to kind of not to have anywhere to go. So I started back to work on Monday and have had a pretty normal week so far. Today is Thursday, and Friday has come up so quickly this week. So like I said, Rick is in hospitality and his hotel just shut down, I think today. Their occupancy was decreasing over time and their services were being scaled back accordingly. And so they are looking forward to reopening, and their target for that is going to be in mid-May, I believe. So so we're hopeful that things will be settled down by then and he'll be able to get back to work, because he really likes his job and he's already missing his work family. Next question. Are you worried about getting it again? And has your doctor said anything about catching it again? So Rick's doctor has been the one who's really been most in communication with us about things like that. And his comment to Rick was, well, at least now you know that you won't get it again. I think that we are pretty confident about that, but knowing that just like any other virus, that they can kind of mutate, it doesn't mean that we will never ever be exposed or have the potential for getting something like that again. And I think that's just the reality that we're living with. So, we're hopeful at this time that we don't really have to be concerned and be overly cautious as we're kind of moving about the world, because we have already been through this and we should have some immunities built up, but we don't know for how long those immunities are going to last. So, should we be helping our immune system with over-the-counter supplements, things like Airborne? Did you have any of those things to begin with? Did you get them when you were sick? So I think the only thing that we do, I take a daily probiotic, and I try to just eat well so that I'm getting all of my vitamins and minerals from food. So I don't take a lot of supplements on the regular. And Rick is kind of the same way in terms of taking a probiotic. He does take a couple of like daily vitamins. And I did order some emergency actually when we were starting to feel unwell, and I don't even think we've opened the box. So, I would say whatever that means for you in terms of just taking care of yourself and making sure you're in your optimal, the optimal health that you can be in, where you are in your life right now, is just good advice anytime. If I had to give somebody advice about what to do to just kind of be prepared, it really is staying hydrated. So if you're somebody who does not often like to drink water or, beverages that are not full of caffeine and sugar, then, just try to make sure that you really are getting a lot of hydration into your system. It helps your body just do what it needs to do normally. But it also helps if you get a respiratory infection, it helps to keep the mucus thin. Isn't that a lovely topic? And it helps to keep things, like I said, it helps to keep your body work in its optimal way and your organs to do the work that they need to do. So if I had any advice for you, it would actually be just to be hydrated. So just keep that in mind. Were we generally healthy people, or were we at risk? We are generally healthy. I would say we are just average people. So Rick and I both are overweight. We are not, we're not super obese or anything, but I think we technically are considered obese. I think we both have at least 30 pounds that we could lose according to the height and weight charts. But we did not have a lot of other issues. My biggest issues that I deal with are sinus and allergy problems. Rick does have sleep apnea, which was a bit of a concern to me with his breathing issues. But even so, he does not have high cholesterol or high blood pressure or any of those kinds of issues. And so in the grand scheme of things, I would consider us just average. We're not running marathons. We're not doing any kind of extreme sports or anything like that. And honestly, most of our walks and or most of our exercise and things comes from walking the dog, dancing, just kind of moving about everyday life and just trying to stay active. So we definitely are just kind of your average Americans. At least that's the way that I see us. What else Do we plan on entering any studies so that others can benefit from recovery, like plasma or antibody donation? So you'll be glad to know that on Monday of this week, Vanderbilt University sent out some phlebotomists to take our blood specifically for use in a vaccine study. And so they were already at work on that, and I will make sure that you guys have the link to read more about it, because they actually just released something out into the media on Monday as well. So we have provided our blood samples to them for use in the study, and if anything else were to come up for us to participate in, we would be absolutely more than happy to do that. It's one of the things that, as I have a degree in health services administration and public administration, and so anything that we can do for like the greater good is something that I'm always all for. And actually Rick is really great to go along with that. So anytime that I tell him, hey, we need to do this thing because it's really good for the research, or it's really good for us to participate in that, he's always for it as well. So we're really happy to be able to do that. Did you guys take hydroxychloroquine? I'm not sure I'm saying that correctly. During quarantine, and if so, how did it work? We did not take any of the things that are being discussed right now in the media or whatnot that you may see circulating. As I mentioned, I think before when we chatted about a week or so ago, we were really just managing our symptoms with Tylenol and with cough syrup and anti-cough medications and things of that nature, and just really trying to stay hydrated. So we did not take any of these medications that are being discussed right now. So I really can't speak to any of those things and how they may or may not have worked. Although I have read quite a few things about some of the studies that are being conducted. And one of the things that is noteworthy, at least from a scientific standpoint, is that the sample sizes are not really large enough to be definitive. So that's one of the concerns. So if you're somebody who really likes to geek out on stuff like that, I would encourage you to dig a little deeper and find out more about some of the research that's being done and the sample sizes and things of that nature, so that you can understand a little bit more about why maybe some of these things aren't being brought out to the general population quite yet. Oh goodness. Do you have any quarantine survival tips for those who are going through that now? So if you're quarantined because you're having symptoms, I would say hydrate and sleep for sure. If you're someone who is just on lockdown, like most of the rest of us are right now in the rest of the country, try to stay busy. Try to find some things that you can do that are off of social media, that are not just feeding some of the anxiety and the excitement that's going on around the virus. Use that time to connect with people that you maybe don't get to talk to that often. Do some activities, do some projects around the house, get caught up on some of your spring cleaning, or maybe that stack of books that you've been wanting to read. That is something that now that I'm feeling better, I'm starting to tackle, things around the house and just trying to kind of get myself organized, because I was already getting in that spring fever mode before all of this went down for us. So those would be my tips. Did we take ibuprofen? Some folks are hearing not to. They don't know if it's real or not. What did the doctor tell you about that? So our doctors actually told us to take acetaminophen or Tylenol. They did not give us any details about the why. And so we just took their advice. So I know that a lot of people say maybe that they think that that Advil or ibuprofen works better for them under certain circumstances, and I think that is totally up to you. The latest research that I read this morning said that, again, the information that folks have about not taking ibuprofen is not definitive enough for folks, at least here, to make the determination that you should or should not take it. But I will say that our doctors told us to take Tylenol for the pain relief and the fever reducer. So as long as Tylenol is okay for you to take, that is what was recommended to us. Do you know what strain of COVID you had? Is it the same as Rick's? We don't know what strain that we had, and I don't know how many strains that there are. So I know that just like the flu can mutate, there will be different variations or different strains, but we've not been told anything about the strains that we have had or the strains that are existing. So I don't really have any more information about that. Did you have a flu shot this year? Interesting. I had a flu shot in the fall, and my symptoms were less serious, or my symptoms were just not as bad as Rick's. Rick did not have a flu shot this year. They actually gave him a flu shot when he left the hospital. So I can't remember if you guys were chatting with me then when he had been in the hospital for 24 hours, but he was hospitalized for 24 hours for a mild case of pneumonia. And when he left, they gave him the flu shot because they told him that if he were to get the flu after having COVID-19, it would have absolutely put him on his ass and he would have been in big trouble. So they wanted to make sure that he had some protection against just the regular old flu. Could you still be contagious after 14 days to an immunosuppressed or elderly person? I don't have the answer to that, but I would assume that since we were told we could go about our normal activities and we're not told to take any special precautions, that they do not expect that the virus is still shedding after that length of time. So again, that was not specifically told to us, but we weren't given any specific precautions about going about our daily lives after we were released from observation by the health department. How do you know you're over it after 14 days? So again, I guess there's no way to really know that you're over it except for that you have to listen to your body and listen to the professional. So again, one of the things that they were telling us was that we didn't have to be quarantined for 14 days after we had had the onset of symptoms. They had changed that to 7 days as long as for the 72 hours prior you had not had a fever. So just like with me, once they released me, I was still feeling really tired. And so I actually said, I don't know what's going on with me. So I'm just gonna nap it out and really stay home and rest. And Rick went out to do some of the things for us because he was feeling 100% back to normal. So, you know, I think that again, you just have to really listen to the professionals and what they're saying. And I know if I were concerned about someone that I was going to be around, like my mom, then I would probably just take some extra precautions just to be safe, considering that that this is something that we do not have like a population immunity built up to. So, and that's just my own personal opinion. No one has told me to do that. And again, no one has said that there's any reason that we should be taking any extra precautions now that we've been released to move about the world, just like normal people. Someone asked, I have a stuffy, runny nose, but no fever. I feel lethargic. Should I be concerned? I don't know what to tell you about that. And I've had lots of folks who have sent me private messages and wanted to know about their symptoms. And I am certainly not an expert. I'm not a medical professional. And I would just say, if whatever you're experiencing is giving you concern, you should reach out to your medical provider or to a telehealth provider if you don't want to go into a clinic or to a doctor's office. And just say, you know, if you're feeling unwell, then stay home. You know, try to stay out of contact with even your family members in the household. Keep all your body fluids and things to yourself if you possibly can, and do everything you can to prevent spreading whatever it is you might be experiencing from them. And if you feel like your symptoms are worsening, and especially if you're having trouble breathing or you know, you're feeling anything that really just does not feel right, that you reach out and seek medical treatment, because some of the issues that can come up from this virus can escalate pretty quickly. So, you know, if there's something that you are concerned about, it's better safe than sorry to reach out to your medical provider or to a telehealth provider in order to get some guidance for that. Oh, okay. What precautions are you both taking after the quarantine? So as I said, like, we were released at the end of last week, so about a week ago. And other than, you know, we've just continued to observe social distancing. And even though Rick is out delivering for some of the delivery services, it's a no contact service. And so he even went out and bought gloves, and he took a big bottle of hand sanitizer and things like that with him, just to make sure that everything he's doing is doing the most for not spreading any, you know, any cooties that might be hanging around on anything that he's transporting. I have not really gotten out until, gosh, the last day or so, I guess, I have taken the dog for a walk in the neighborhood. Today I went for a walk with a friend, but we still stayed 6 feet apart. And so we're just doing everything that's already recommended to us because it just makes good sense. And if we're doing it, then everyone else will kind of follow suit. I feel like monkey see, monkey do. So if you start to relax, the things that you're doing out in public because you're not concerned about getting the virus, for example, that others will start to follow those behaviors. So we've just been good models of social distancing and really trying to not make unnecessary trips to the store, for example. There have not been too many things that we've needed, but we have just tried to, kind of keep those trips to a minimum. And get in and get out with what we need and not just linger around. So anyway, I hope that this video was helpful. It went on a little longer than I had planned, but if you guys have any other questions, I'm always happy to come back on. Mitchell and I can grab a Facebook Live, or I'm happy to do another video for you guys. You can always go over to my own Facebook page and find me at Tara Shaver, TARASHAVER, and I have all of my videos public where I am documenting our journey with COVID-19 from diagnosis to release from observation by our Department of Public Health. You can share those with anyone you like, and if you have additional questions, you can ask them there. I think I've covered almost every question anyone could have for us, so I'm not doing any videos anymore, but I am open to doing a video if we start to accumulate questions there that folks have, as we have gone out a few weeks from being in quarantine and being under observation. So I hope you guys are having a great week and you're staying safe and you're staying occupied during this super weird time in our country and in our world, where we're dealing with something that folks who are living today really haven't had to deal with. So take care of each other, be smart, be safe, wash your hands, and don't spread your cooties. And thanks again for you guys, just all of the concern that you've had for us and all the questions and all the love. We have felt it all the way over here in Tennessee, and we hope you stay well. Thanks so much. Talk to you later.